Hello everybody and welcome to this month's Anime Paint Night. So for this month we have Marcel Donada from Delicious in Dungeon. Yes indeed. So you should have your line art. You should also have your reference sheet. Oh, Donato, my bad. You should also have a watercolor kit if you asked for it. Make sure you get your water, maybe a little paper towel, then let's go ahead and get started. Alrighty, so for our next portion, it's not going to be a very long portion, but we're going to actually work on the red accents that we mentioned before. So she has a small, like, little, I think, what's it called? A choker, like, right on her neck and such. And then we've got a little bit of the ribbon at the underside of her hood, like, near, like, the beginning part of it. And then we should also have the bow in her hair. Yes, indeed. So those should be like the... Oh, yes, right. And the little bits of, like the... I don't know what you call them. Like the little, like, bands in her hair and stuff like that at the end of her braids. Yes, so got to do those as well. Yep, there we go. And I think the red really ties it together. It's not overbearing. There's not a lot of red. It's definitely more of a cool color scheme palette for her vibe. And then we have the warm colors in the form of her hair and the ribbons that kind of really ties it together. So I think they did a really good job choosing that. Yeah, hope you like it. Okay, so our next portion, we are actually going to start now working a little bit on the clothes. So first we're going to work on the undershirt. The undershirt, I mean, if you look at the reference sheet, the color palette is a little tricky to do with this watercolor palette, but we're going to make it work as we always do. Yes, indeed. So we're just going to go with the solid blue to start out with right here. And then in addition to the solid blue, we'll go ahead and start adding just a little bit of green, but not the super dark green. We're going to go for like the lighter green and such and just add a little bit of that. Because if you notice in the reference sheet, it's not like true fully blue. There's a little bit of a tint or a tone of something else. And since there's a lot of like, it almost feels like there's a lot of green near her, we're going to try to add some of that green to kind of like make it a little bit different and such, just to make it maybe perhaps closer to what we're seeing in the reference sheet. But we don't want to add too much green because if you notice, the undershirt in the reference sheet is more blue than that it is green. The hood or the shawl is definitely more green. So we definitely wanted to make sure that it's like more blue here so that there is a little bit of a distinction. I think they did a fantastic job with that. So, yes, absolutely. All right, so now that we've done the undershirt side, now we're going to start working on like the shawl, right? So we're going to actually go for the light blue now. And we're going to pretty much balance that really light, like baby blue with that light green and such. And we're going to blend it nice and well together all the way through. Again, we don't want it to be too severely green and such, but we also really don't want it to be like, oh yeah, it's more blue than green and such. We want to try to have a nice balance. We're going to strike that balance, bouncing back and forth between the baby blue and the green and such. That way we'll be able to have an opportunity to really distinguish between the undershirt and the hood side, but also trying to maintain what we see in the reference sheet. One of the things that I really appreciate about the not only the character design of like Marcille, but for Delicious in Dungeon, it's not like super extravagant. You know what I mean? Like it's not like, whoa, what's going on, stuff like that. They have a very simple clothing design. Like if you look at Marcille's outfit, it's kind of like, I love the details, how it's like, it almost looks handmade, you know? You can kind of see like the little notches and stitches, like the stitches in the sleeve and like in the little bits of lines that you kind of see in the scarf area and such. I love how it gives it that kind of like, hey, grandma knitted that for you type of vibe, you know what I mean? Or maybe she even knitted it herself. Either way. But I think that's a really cool rustic vibe that I get it. Rustic is a strong word. I don't even know why I even use it. But yes, that's what I'm thinking. But in addition, right, we're noticing, again, the cool colors is the primary driving force for Marcille's like main outfit. So it really makes her blonde hair like shine when we get to that. Now I will say this. We've seen this before. We've seen this before in an anime paint night that we've done, like, I think maybe 1 or 2 years ago and stuff like that. We did Link from The Legend of Zelda. If you look at Link's character design, especially from Breath of the Wild, Breath of the Wild's Link had like a blue tunic, right? And even if you look at Tears of the Kingdom, even though it's like a more green / eggshell vibe, also there's a lot more skin that he's showing and stuff because he's like kind of wearing like Greek outfit type of stuff, you know? The blonde hair pops because of the fact that it has the cool element going on with the attire, right? But Marcille's, at the edge of her shawl, she's got that warm color yet again. We know for a fact that it's not exactly bright yellow. We're going to try our best to try to maintain the reference sheet. So the way I'm doing that is by adding just, again, a little bit more green to maintain that kind of balance. And also to just maintain the pattern that the shawl was already going for already, you know? We already had a little bit of green tinting the baby blue. We already have the green tinting the solid blue and such. So if we continue with that flow, we can kind of maintain that balance and such. But also, we can't forget inside of Marseille's sleeve. We want to make sure that we do inside of Marseille's sleeve. But we kind of really can't see it, so we're just going to work with our imagination. We'll do a little bit of that solid blue, a little bit of that darker vibe right there. We're not going to even add any green this time for the inside portion of the sleeve. And then we'll add like maybe a little bit of black for her like maybe under long sleeve. Then we'll move on. Alrighty, so for our next, we are going to be going for, where am I going? I can't even see past my hand. What am I? Oh, the eyes, of course. Yes, the eyes. Yes, her eyes are green. That's why we went for the green. Yes, indeed. I was just like, I can't see past your hand, me. Anyway, yes, we're doing the eyes. Yes. Nice emerald green type of vibe and such. And we'll also do the mouth and such. So the way the animators did it, they had like a more pink tongue and such like that. And then we had the more like darker, like dark pink or like faded red for the mouth itself. So we'll go ahead and follow suit with that. Add a little bit of black there first, and then we'll add the red to create that faded black vibe for the mouth. And this is a very simple portion. So we'll go ahead and move on to our next portion. One of my favorites. It's time. It's here. One of our favorite parts of Anime Paint Night, doing the hair. You already know anime has a fantastic affinity with hair and such. And you know, Miss Marcille is blonde. So we're going to go for the yellow and such. And there's a large area to go for. So just take your time. Have fun. Again, you're doing fantastic. Regardless of if, you know, like you've got some paint in other areas or whatever, or maybe you're not really sure. You're doing fantastic. Your piece is your piece, and I would love to see it. So you can feel free to share it with me by sending it to the email that we get for the Anime Paint Night. So feel free to please do so. Yes, indeed. But yes, like we said, the blonde hair really ties it together. And one thing that I didn't really notice fully was the, you know how we have like the yellow green vibe at the edge of the like the shawl and stuff like that. The shawl itself kind of ties with the hair a little bit because it's the closest thing to Marcille's actual hair and such. So it has that nice flow. It goes from this, whoa, there's a lot of like yellow and warm colors in the form of the hair and stuff like that. We have a little accents with the red. We come down, it gets immediately cooler. Her eyes are the same, like green and stuff like that kind of follows suit in her color palette. And then after we get past like the initial shawl blue and stuff like that, we see a little bit more of that yellow, like, or like faded yellow and such, right? And then we move right into the blue. It flows so nicely. Very nice stuff. So yeah, Marcille is pretty cool character design. I think we're almost done. We got the eyebrows. Yes, indeed. Of course, you had to remember the eyebrows. Yes, indeed. All right, and we can't forget this last braid right here, of course. And we are almost done. But we've still got one more thing that we're going to do together, okay? All right, let's move on. All right, now for the last thing, well, actually, you kind of see that we're almost pretty much done, right? This is Marcille, this is our color. So we're going to go ahead and add a little bit of, like, some shading detail and such, right? So we're going to start with the skin tone. Go ahead and get a little bit more of that brown or the eggshell and such. Or no, not really the eggshell, the brown and such. And we're going to go ahead and work on the areas that would be shaded, right? Underneath the chin, right? At the edge of that neck. Anything that's like really close to the hair and stuff like that might be blocking it from the sun. Just to give it a little bit more depth and such. The risk with this is, you know, yeah, we are using brown and such. So it may not necessarily be what you want, like for accuracy's sake and such, but ain't nothing wrong with a little melanin, you know what I'm saying? You know, so hey, look, if you're Marcille a little melanated, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. We're okay out here. Absolutely. Yes, indeed. And so we're gonna add a little bit of that shading and such right here by the chin. Absolutely. There we go, by the forehead as well. And then in addition to the like the face and such, and like the ears and everything, we're also going to start moving on to some of the clothing aspects too. But one of the things that might help with your shading is making sure that you have enough water to kind of distribute the actual like pigment and such. So because we don't want it to be like overbearing. We don't want it to be like, oh, instead of it being shading, it's just like, oh, I'm doing a second coat of paint. We want to accent the first coat of paint that we did before, right? It also might give us an opportunity to add more details, like what, her nose, right? Her nose wasn't really super duper visible until we actually did some of the accents there. So that's why we do it. For the ears, we always, inside the ear is a little bit darker. Stuff was like a cave for earwax, whatever. So that's why we do it. That's why we do it right there. Take your time with it, most certainly. This just gives you an opportunity to just like take your time and like flex your creative muscles a little bit. Absolutely. Just because we have like a baseline doesn't mean yours has to be the same, but also doesn't mean we can't like enhance it a little bit further, with some technique and such, right? Absolutely. But again, whatever yours looks like, if you spent that time on it and if you enjoyed your time and such, that's what really matters. That's all that really matters and such. And beauty is present and accounted for because of the fact that you did it yourself. That in itself is its own beauty. Now, if you notice, we're going to go for the orange and we're going to add a little bit of shading to the hair itself, making it a little bit more fiery, having it a little bit more depth and such. I'm going to go ahead and get that yellow in and everything. Very good. But while we're doing this, while we're finishing up, I just wanted to say thank you yet again for another wonderful year of Anime Paint Night. You all have been so wonderful and supportive of this version of Anime Paint Night. I know for a fact that they've been doing this for, I think a good 3 years now, this format and everything. And you all seem to think that it's good. So we're going to keep on going and everything. They got some new characters and some classic characters and stuff like that for next year and everything. So I hope you really enjoy. Definitely some ones that I'm very excited for. And I'm curious how I'm going to do line art for. But if you're looking for anything other like artistic anime type of stuff, if you have any kind of interest for anything like that, please send me an email, the email that I sent for the actual program and everything. But genuinely speaking, thank you so much always for the support. And I know for a fact that your artwork is going to look amazing. Feel free to share it with me, okay? I hope you all have a wonderful time. Enjoy your holidays or whatever. And bye-bye.